most bands have to ask the crowd to keep some noise.
So welcome to the backstage of the beautiful Olympia Theatre here in Dublin. Now, there were two stories that caught my eye during the short flight over here to Dublin today. The first is that Elvis Costello has decided to follow the lead of Gil Scott-Heron and Carlos Santana and a number of other artists in deciding to boycott Israel. He's decided not to go to Israel as part of a protest against the way that the Israeli state are treating Palestinians. So, you know, good on him, I say. Now, the second story that caught my eye in the newspapers is that right here in Dublin, just last night, there were over 1,000 people protesting outside the Parliament building as part of the Right to Work campaign. So I'm going to go round the corner into Temple Bar in order to meet one of the organisers of that campaign to find a bit more out about it.
You know, Ireland, was following a particularly neoliberal kind of path, during the Celtic Tiger years. We had the least regulation on financial speculation, I think, anywhere in Europe, and so the crash has been quite severe here. And, we've got almost 500,000 unemployed in a country of 4 million people, which is, massive. It's almost at 13% now unemployment. So, and 80,000 of the people who are unemployed are under 24. So you can imagine there's 80,000 young people without a job in this country right now. And so, I think the right to work campaign in terms of mobilising young unemployed people, and then also mobilising for solidarity with strikers, and then building up that kind of rank and file organisation and grassroots kind of organisation where young unemployed people can go make collections for strikers, and strikers actually will then march and demand that there's jobs provided for young people. So I think it was kind of on the tip of everybody's tongue.
Tell me a bit more. You said that the trade unions are so used to being, did you say, in partnership?
Yeah.
Tell us what you mean by that.
Well, in Ireland, the arrangement was that the unions and the government would sit around the table, and everything was done by negotiation. So wage agreements. So there'd be partnership 2006, and so they'd have a certain we'll give you this amount of wage rises, and in return what the unions gave was they basically signed away their right to strike. They signed away so it's like trading your conditions and your rights for small incremental pay increases, which during the Celtic Tiger, people negotiated pay increases, but they weren't really keeping up with the cost of living, because the cost of housing here and the cost of rent, the cost of food, rocketed during the Celtic Tiger years. And so people were producing an ever bigger pie but getting an ever smaller share of it. The fact that Fianna Fáil, the party that's in government, they just want to pursue, they're still pursuing neoliberal, deflationary, just cut and cut and cut. Let's slash state spending. The smaller we can make the state, the better. The less hospitals there are, the better. The less firefighters there are, the better. They're still pursuing that policy, and I think people are furious that the union leaders have come back to them with a package. Basically the union leaders' attitude is, things are really bad in this country, and we have to accept some cuts. Whereas the union leaders and the government seem to presume that most of us are a little bit dense, or that that we don't actually read the newspapers, or the Sunday Times rich list for Ireland was published a month or two ago, and the richest one man on that list, and they photographed him, rather boastful photographs of him beside a swimming pool and with his mansion. You think they'd kind of try to hide that stuff considering the situation the economy's in. But so this one man is worth 3.9 billion. So, there's no one in the trade union leadership that's pointing out that, you could stick a 90% tax on him. He'd still have 900 million, which, I'm sure you can live, fairly reasonably on 900 million. But, I suppose their response would be, but if you do that, then he won't invest. But I suppose our response has to be, well, if you don't do that, then we won't work.
Yeah.
I think that there's a battle going on in Ireland, and they really, want to make us pay for the crisis, while they sit back in comfort and don't pay at all.
Well, it seems pretty obvious to me. I don't know about the video viewers, but it seems pretty obvious to me that we have to fight. Can we win?
I think we can, but I don't even think it's a case of even saying can we win. We have to win. There's no choice. It's like if someone comes up to you on the street and attacks you with a knife, you don't go, oh, I don't know if I'm going to fight because, you know, I might not win. Well, then you're definitely going to lose, you know. And if the guy's coming at you, know, if you know he's determined to do what he's determined to do, then what are you going to do? So in my mind, it's like we have no choice. We have to rebuild grassroots organisation. We have to rebuild strength, you know, rank and file strength in the unions, and, you know, take the spirit of these protests that we've seen on the streets back into union meetings, and, you know, reinvigorate the unions, because, you know, the unions in Ireland, you know, most union members are, you know, in their 50s, you know. So we have to get, you know, young people actually to see the value of actually being organised, and, you know, to understand why we need to get organised. So yeah, I think we can. And I mean, I've seen some amazing things this year. I've seen, like, you know, like the Thomas Cook lock-in. You know, one of the girls, Pauline, she, you know, was one of the women who led the occupation, and it was an occupation that inspired workers across this country, led by young working class women. You know, it's like they really, you know, they were at the forefront of fighting back against redundancy. But Pauline, she said one remarkable thing to me, which, you know, really inspired me. She said, before this began, and this is her words, you know, she said, I was a Barbie doll who read Hello magazine and didn't give a damn about, you know, politics of the world. 5 days in a lock-in, and, you know, on the 5th day, at 4 o'clock in the morning, you know, a couple of hundred policemen came with a steel baton and smashed in the glass door of the top, you know, of a travel agent's, and took 40 women who'd locked themselves in there out one by one and carted them off to court, you know, to prison for the night. You know, because they, they objected to the fact that they were being dismissed. You know, like the management came in and said, right, get out, you're fired. And the fact that Pauline, you know, in 4 or 5 days in a lock-in can go from I don't give a damn about politics to I want to change the world, and I want to be an activist, and I want to know how things work, and I want to know what the state is, and what, you know, why the police were used against us, to asking those kind of questions. I think the struggles that we're going to see in relation to, you know, internationally, the upper class and the bosses, the government's trying to make working class people pay. I think we're going to see hugely inspiring shifts in in the way working class people think of the world, and the way they think of themselves. And I think that gives me great hope. I think it's very inspiring.
James, it's an absolute pleasure to speak with you. Thank you once again.
Cheers.